Okay, namaskar to everybody. And welcome to another Wednesday meditation. I'm happy to be with you again and to share another exploratory meditation. Every week we're looking at a different way to explore the spiritual aspect of life through an somewhat innovative meditation. And today we're looking at the highest chakra, the Sahasrara Cakra, which is about maybe 1 or 2 millimeters above the body. So to a great extent, it's a place of transcendence, a place of communion with that which is greater than us. So I'd like to start today with the reading. I'm going to share this screen. All right, here then is the reading of the day. In meditation, Brahma becomes your object. So Brahma here is supreme consciousness, higher power, cosmic love, the mystery, right? Each of us will have our own interpretation of that word. In meditation, Brahma becomes your object and you become the subject. You become the seer and Brahma becomes the seen. So this is how we normally meditate. We meditate on something. We focus our attention on something, and often in tantric meditation, it's the supreme consciousness. However, the inner spirit of meditation is that while looking at Brahma with your inner eye, you should think, I'm not meditating on Brahma. What is actually happening is that Brahma is meditating on me. So this is a complete shift in perspective, and this is what we'll be meditating on later. That normally we're used to being the subject, looking out at the world, and everything else is our object. We look at everything around. But here then, we're changing that perspective, whereby the great, or Brahma, the higher power, supreme consciousness, is meditating upon us. So we are part of a flow of consciousness that's coming from the great down into the world, so to speak. I am the object and Brahma is the subject. Brahma sees whatever I do. Brahma knows whatever I think. So if we understand that Brahma is omnipresent and omniscient, that there is nothing which isn't the mystery, which isn't supreme consciousness, then obviously Brahma is aware of even the thought or even the intention behind the thought. This idea helps in freeing oneself from the serpentine noose of vanity. This idea that I am part of something greater that's flowing through me, helps to free us from this sense of vanity. So let's have a chat about that. So I think when we look at the word vanity, we can look at too much preoccupation with oneself, an overemphasis upon oneself. that we human beings have the tendency to over-personalize, as if we are the center of the universe and everything revolves around us. So what happens in then day-to-day life is, let's say you're walking down the street and you see a friend on the other side and you say hi, and the friend ignores you. Then you think, oh my God, like my friend doesn't like me anymore. What have I done wrong? And you're thinking about everything you said to your friend recently. But actually, maybe the friend is just having a bad day. But we tend to over-personalize. We see ourselves as being the focal point. And so we misinterpret these simple situations. Or maybe your partner came home and you've cooked a nice meal and your partner doesn't show any appreciation. And so then you're thinking, now my partner doesn't like me? What's going on here? I mean, always in the past, my partner has appreciated my food. But maybe your partner had a bad day at work. And so this is the challenge, that we tend to react to what's around us from a very narrow perspective. We're unable to see the bigger picture. Another characteristic of somebody who is in this kind of narrow frame of reference, where I'm the center of the universe, it can be explored through this relationship between doing and being. Doing and being. So, for example, let's say you're in your car and you have to get to an important meeting and you're stuck in traffic. The traffic is not going anywhere. It's completely at a standstill. So somebody who is in doing mode, excuse me, is going to get very anxious. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be late. What will people think of me? Do you think I'm going to lose my job? What shall I do? So there'll be a lot of anxiety about the possibility of being late. Somebody in being mode will take a look. Oh, what can I do? I'm in a traffic jam. We'll take a photograph with the camera, send the photo to the boss. See, I'm in traffic. I'm going to be late. And then maybe read a spiritual book or listen to a podcast or even meditate, in the car. So somebody who is in doing mode never has enough time. Is always going to be anxious about what's coming next. Could even be a perfectionist, because that person will be continually worried about what other people think. Therefore, I always have to be perfect. The person in doing mode is going to be making comparisons all the time. That person's more successful than me. That person has a happier Facebook profile than me. That person has more friends than me, or likes than me. And that is definitely a recipe for unhappiness. Now, somebody in being mode sees a much broader perspective. So when something happens in life that's not so favorable, there's curiosity. Oh, why is this happening to me? Maybe I can learn something from this. Somebody in being mode has enough time, always finds a way to utilize time as a positive resource, and actually ends up getting a lot done. Maybe the person in being mode is able to achieve more than the person in doing mode, because the one who is in that place of being is much more calm within, less threatened by what can happen in life around one. And so what this quote we just read is saying is basically, in meditation, to put oneself into being mode. So to see life more as a process. And this process is guided by something that's much greater than me. One could also use the word surrender. It's a challenging word because surrender is so difficult. But the one in being mode is able to open him or herself up to a greater energy, a greater consciousness. And that takes a lot of stress out of living. So somebody in doing mode, say, is giving a presentation, is going to over-prepare, maybe write everything down, and maybe even memorize everything that she or he wants to say. In fact, I was in Brazil some years ago, and there was a gathering of religious leaders. So some religious leaders, they had a prepared speech. Maybe they were in doing mode. They wanted to make a good impression. Then the Dalai Lama came. He didn't have anything prepared, and he clearly spoke from the heart. So he was in being mode. He was able to surrender to the moment, feel what was happening around him, and speak very inspiring words from the heart. So one who is in being mode, who has surrendered to a greater consciousness, has a lot more confidence, a lot more security, a lot more safety, knowing that there is something greater working through one. So this, of course, is the ideal state to be in life, to not over-personalize, to not narrow one's vision to just oneself, but to feel that truly one is a part of something greater, which is what we're going to meditate on. But I would like to read you a poem, actually, which I think reflects this discussion rather well. So let me share the screen again. So the poem is Walk, Don't Run by a guy called Rob Bell. Now we can interpret running as doing mode and walking as being mode, being open to the unfolding of life, and running, the person who wants to control every second of life. In this poem, there's a reference to Moses and the burning bush. So Moses can be symbolized as the guide, and the burning bush symbolizes God in the sense that God is that which is pure, and that which is pure, like God, makes everything else around it pure. Just as fire burns everything else around it, the purity of Brahma, if you like, of the divine, will make everything that comes into contact with it pure. I will read. Walk, don't run. That's it. Walk, don't run. Slow down, breathe deeply, and open your eyes, because there's a whole world right here within this one. The bush doesn't suddenly catch on fire. It's been burning the whole time. Moses is simply moving slowly enough to see it. And when he does, he takes off his sandals. Not because the ground has suddenly become holy, but because he's just now becoming aware that the ground has been holy the whole time. Efficiency is not God's highest goal for your life. Neither is busyness, or how many things you can get done in one day, or speed, or even success. But walking, which leads to seeing. Now that's something. That's the invitation for every one of us today, and every day, in every conversation, interaction, event, and moment, to walk, not run, And in doing so, to see a whole world right here within this one. I'll repeat that last sentence because it's so nice. To walk, not run, and in doing so, to see a whole world right here within this one. So that's the beauty, excuse me, that's the beauty of the path of Tantra. In fact, this is to some extent expressing Tantra, because it's not that there is somewhere out there or a time in the future where one will discover the beauty, right? It's discoverable right now. It's here right now. If one can just be, or as the poet is saying, if one can learn to walk and not run, then one discovers a beautiful reality within reality. So this is very positive, very optimistic, very hopeful, right? That it's within our capacity to be and to discover through being. And then, of course, when we can be more, when we can become more spiritual, more introspective, then everything that we do has much more sweetness, much more sense of purpose, much more impact. All right. I hope you enjoyed the poem.